The Harbinger hasn't stopped in its message, in its revelation, and its warning. God often uses visuals and symbols and images to communicate prophetic truth. So this is a whole new way of coming out. They have no immunity against the Harbinger. The same God who moved in the Bible is alive and well and moving now in America, and we're in it, but this is a wake-up call. And God used this. This is really God's message to wake up a nation, wake up people.
Well, Jonathan Cahn, it's a privilege to be able to talk to you about this powerful adaptation, or not even an adaptation. It's the full Harbinger novel, but put as a graphic novel. And we're excited to partner with you at Charisma to be able to turn this powerful message into a new way of getting it out there. So it's great to be able to have you here to talk about this.
Always great to be here, John. Always great, and we're excited about this new thing.
Yeah. So the Harbinger the book has been around for a while now, and it has been the thing that prophetically God gave you. And there's so many stories with that. We're going to dive into some of that a little bit. But when you look at this graphic novel and you look at where God has taken you from with the original inspiration for this, and as you were diving into that, tell me about some of the things that stand out to you with the graphical depiction of the Harbinger.
Like what's different or what's striking? Well, first of all, it's exciting. It's something that, I mean, like as soon as I see it, you want to read it. And I've said, you've probably heard me say this, that I right now have one copy of it, and I have to hide it in my house because my sons want it. Everybody wants it. It's exciting because, first of all, I think there's a reason why the Lord would have this now. The timing of it's got to be the Lord, that He knows what's coming. The Harbinger hasn't stopped in its message, in its revelation, and its warning. So this is a whole new way of coming out. The Harbinger involves graphic, involves images, involves visuals, and so this is putting that in that form. God often uses visuals and symbols and images to communicate prophetic truth. So it's like a prophetic tool. So this is the Harbinger. For those who don't know, this is a graphic novel. Graphic novel, many people know, but there are people who are watching may not know what a graphic novel is. Graphic novel may look like a comic book, but it's a full book.
Right.
But it's in every page is, the Harbinger is translated into the book. It's the whole Harbinger. All the major things are in this book, but you see it. It's easy to read. You see it. You see the prophet. You see the Noriel. You see the you see the seals. You see the harbingers, which is really a powerful thing. It's an exciting thing that I think I believe can reach, not only will reach people who have read the Harbinger and want to see that, but also and Christians who know of the Harbinger, but of those who don't know of the Harbinger, and those who are not saved, and those who are not readers, and those of the younger generation. It's not just for the young, but it is it can reach the young. It can reach. It can reach people who are readers and who are not readers. There are a lot, and I believe that people give this when they give it to their people in their life, whether they need to know the Lord or they need to be awakened. They'll read it. Yeah. They will read it because it's easy and it's immediately rewarding. You're seeing all the stuff you're seeing. It's I believe it's going to be a great blessing.
Yeah, I know. I've read it already, and I haven't read the whole thing. I've looked through it, and I'm just drawn in by the graphical depictions of the Harbingers and all the coins and just the prophetic meanings with that. It's actually like, oh, I can see this, and it's paralleled, the modern and the ancient. One of the things I want to dive into right now is the fact that you wrote the Harbinger book years ago. But then God had you rewrite it and change the way that you were actually communicating that. And if that wouldn't have happened, we would not be able to have this Harbinger graphic novel. Can you explain what God did with that?
Originally I wrote the Harbinger straight out as nonfiction. It's the revelation of it. And then when I finished it, the Lord really led me in one day, one afternoon, said, you have to rewrite the whole thing, rewrite it with a story, as a story. Tell the truth. Reveal the revelations. Tell the prophetic truth. But use a story to do it as a vehicle, as a vessel. And so it was as I got that. I remember this because my wife was away. By the time she got home, I had the whole story. Like, I think it was in 2 hours. I just saw the whole story, and I saw the seals. I saw the prophet. I saw.
This was like a vision.
Well, sort of. I mean, in my mind's eye, but I saw it. And I saw them walking through New York City and revealing the different things. I saw it all at once. And then when I wrote it, because the Lord uses parables, He uses stories to tell truths. So it's all true, but the story is a vehicle to tell the truth. So when I started writing it that way, it was the easiest thing I ever did. It was far easier than when I wrote it the first time. It was easy. When I spoke the prophet's words, they just flowed onto the page. So pages every time I sat down. It was the easiest thing. So it just flowed, and I knew that. I knew that was the Lord. Because it was done in a story form, now it can be this, with picture, with all sorts of, they're in New York City. There's all sorts of visuals, and so that lends itself to that. It also lends itself to things like movies, and all that. And so I believe this is all linked to that too. The other thing is that also when people see it, there's certain things that I could not have done in a book that you'll see the ancient harbinger that appeared in the last days of ancient Israel and the reappearance of that harbinger in modern America side by side visually. So you're going to see it. You see how they match up. It's a very powerful thing. So it's a real powerful tool.
Yeah. It really is. And I love the message and how God speaks to you through prophetic parallels and prophetic just paradigms. I know that's been another book of yours that I really enjoyed. But when you look at this and you see this visually depicted for yourself, I mean, how close is this to what God was showing you that day?
It's very close. I mean, I was amazed at the artist. I don't really know him, but we were involved with it, and we saw the penciled pictures, and we said, okay. In some cases, we said, okay, no, you got to make it more, because there are actual places, the Empire State Building, the New York Public Library, the Lincoln Memorial, and then there's the seals that are also, that way. So we went through that. But nevertheless, I was surprised. I mean, how accurate this is to the places and to what I envisioned. What I envisioned in that. So pretty amazing. Amazing. It's very much so. I mean, I don't know what the parameters are, like how much it could have been this way or that way, but it is. I did have special input in how the characters look. We took more time on that once we got that down, but I'm amazed by it.
Yeah. So I think I know this story a little bit. And I want you to share this because there's you look at the prophet in this, and in my opinion, it looks very much like you, dressed in all black with the beard, maybe just a younger version of her prophet based off of about whenever you wrote the Harbinger. But I know that you were actually a featured character in a comic book. And so now things are kind of coming full circle, I guess.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
Very strange. Yes, this is first of all, yes. It turns out I am in a Marvel comic. I am in a Spider-Man comic book, and I appear. There's two full pages where I'm there, and the amazing. I mean, on top of this, I'll tell you it. The day that I found it came out, and I went to the store. I hadn't been to a comic store, and I got it. That day was the day that the Lord had told me you have to rewrite the Harbinger with a story, with a narrative. That was the same day, and it had nothing to do with each other. It was the same day, and in the I think about it now, and in the comic book, the Marvel comic book, I am depicted as interviewing. I'm a television guy interviewing a man who just wrote a book that just became a bestseller on Amazon. And so I'm interviewing the author as I'm ready. And so in a sense, it was splitting me up. I mean, because I'm going to write a book. So I was more like the author, but it's me as the interviewer. And then I didn't plan it this way, but it turns out I realized it afterwards. The Harbinger, what I did, that's exactly what happened. Here you have I'm telling a story, but I'm split up into the Prophet and Noriel. You know, telling a story, fictional, telling a story, a real thing, but story. I'm a real person, but I was split up in Marvel Comics into and it did become a bestseller. It was like a prophetic thing, and then so it happened on that day. That it was translated, began the translation, it had nothing to do with it, and now it's become a graphic novel like that, and yeah, the Prophet. The Prophet. I wanted to make sure he looked Jewish. He had to have a beard, and he didn't want a long. I wanted him to, like, he could blend into New York City, and so I always pictured him with a cloak, and and so I don't know that his face has different things, but if you look at the overall or look from a distance or occasional pictures, you could say, okay, that's the Jonathan Cahn look.
But it wasn't see the inspiration.
Yeah, but it wasn't planned. It was the face is actually different, but yeah. So it came amazing. That's how it is, and I still have that at home somewhere. I have that Marvel comic book.
So did somebody come to you and say, hey, I want to use your likeness in a comic book, and that's how that came about?
Someone came to the Lord, and they were at our congregation, and they were one of the main artists for Marvel. So I don't think he asked me. I think he just did it, and then he told me, and so he did it with me. Me in Marvel, in Spider-Man.
So I know that there is a scene in the Harbinger, which is also depicted in the Harbinger graphic novel, that you wrote about this, and then it actually came to life in your own life. Let's talk about that, because that is a powerful, powerful story of how God used this as a prophetic seal in your own life.
Yeah, I had finished the Harbinger now. Now I wrote it in this form, and there are people telling me, there was no publisher or anything, and so saying, well, if you want to get it published, you got to brand yourself. People know you in the Messianic world, but they don't know you in the publishing world. You got to brand. I'm not branding myself, And I was kind of grieved by all this stuff. That's the thing. That's not the way it's going to go. So that same week that I finished it, and I was told these things, I was to go to Promise Keepers, speak of Promise Keepers in Dallas, Texas, and the plane stopped in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I bowed my head. It was early in the morning, and I said, Lord, I'm not doing what they're telling me to do. The Harbinger is yours. You know how to get messages. You've gotten messages out before. You know how to get messages out. You don't need an agent. You don't need anything. So just do it your way. I open up my eyes, and there's a man sitting to my left. And he turns to me, and he says, so what's the good word? I said, God loves you. He says, I know that, but what's the good word? I'm thinking, this is weird. So I'm talking to him. I'm witnessing to him. And I'm talking and until I realize he's trying to get me saved while I'm trying to get him saved. And then he says, Jonathan, you've written a book. This book is of God, and God is going to take the book, and he's going to spread it across America, across the world. He said, you've done a lot, but it's nothing compared to what you're going to do. He said, you've been known, but it's nothing compared to how you're going to be known. It's like you're going to suddenly be known. He starts handing me $100 bills and says, God is going to multiply your outreach by 100 times over. And it turned, now the thing is, there was a Super Bowl game, and it's famous. It's like considered the most famous catch in Super Bowl history.
Right.
The helmet catch, David Tyree. People don't know is David Tyree is a born-again believer. And he was praying to the Lord, I want to be used to the Lord. I want to be used to spread the gospel. And before he went into the game, a man gave him a prophetic word telling him that something was going to happen, God's going to have it cause to happen to put you in the spotlight, and you're going to glorify God. Well, the whole game he's saying, is that it? And he knew it was going to be a catch. It happened. It was the helmet catch on his helmet. He became famous from that. He wrote a book glorifying God, mentioned the guy's name who gave him the prophecy. It was published by Charisma. So that put that guy in touch with Charisma and the president, Steve Strang. The guy who gave him that word for the Super Bowl is the guy sitting next to me at the airport.
Right.
And so because of that, because of how God works all things together, that catch, and you can look at it in slow-mo, how a million different details had to be in the exact spot for that thing to happen. The guy, Eli Manning, the quarterback, was almost tackled.
Right.
He grabbed the head of shirt, slips away, just throws it out there, ends up happening. And because of that I get a email or I get a message from Steve Strang, the president of Charisma, who says, we heard about what happened at the airport. We heard about this thing called the Harbinger. We have no idea what it is, but we're interested.
Yeah.
And that is how the Harbinger went forth to the world by the hand of God. And because of that Super Bowl catch. And the thing is that in the book, the things start really rolling when the prophet, the man Noriel, sits down in a public place. To his left sits down the prophet. The prophet turns to him, starts talking to him, making small talk, then gives him a prophetic word that he's called ultimately in the book to write a book that's going to bring a prophetic word and warning to America, which is the message of the Harbinger. So that God recreated that scene from the book that I just wrote in that airport, where he sits down to me, to my left, starts making talk with me, then gives me a prophetic word about bringing a book to America. And so God used the book to make the book become a book.
I love that story. I know that gentleman as well. Hubie Sin is a powerful man of God, very humble, and he's just used by God in very unique ways. He's almost stealth about how God uses him sometimes. Yeah, and I'm very grateful that he was obedient to give you that encouragement and how God brought all that together.
Amazing. I mean, that's God. I mean, and the amazing thing is that I just prayed that prayer. Lord, you do it. I prayed that prayer. And as soon as I opened my eyes, God answered it and then made it a book.
So, Jonathan, I thank you for sharing that story. That is powerful. And I know that this whole Harbinger and even the Harbinger graphic novel has come together as a prophetic word from the Lord. When you look at this now, what are you hoping, or what are you expecting or believing God to do with the Harbinger graphic novel as it goes out to the world?
Well, the purpose for this is, aside from blessing believers who know the Harbinger and they're going to see it, and in this whole new form, and it's an explosion. By the way, Stephen Strang, the president of Charisma, said he looked at it and he's seeing things in it that he never saw, and he published it. I'm looking at it, I'm seeing things I never saw, and I wrote it. So it's something about when it appears in a visual form, your mind receives it in a different way, and so it's amazing. So for them, for believers, but also that believers can use this as a means to reach people in their life, as a gift. Give it to people, people who are, it's not just young, but the young are much more this way. So to reach this generation, give it to your children, give it to younger people in your life, but also people who don't normally read books or may not invest to read a Christian book, and who might not do, but they'll read this. When you give it to them, they'll read this. They'll get it. They'll get it this way. So it's another way of reaching them. People, and also believers who may be kind of asleep or they're not really on fire. Like, well, this is real. Or people. There are people who have family members who go to church, but all right, yeah, I've heard that. But this is a wake up call, and God used this. This is really God's message to wake up a nation, but wake up people. And so in this form, it's a new way to reach them. And also the other thing is, I've mentioned that there are a lot of people saved or unsaved. Let's say the unsaved, they have resistance. They have some immunity to the gospel. Oh yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I'm supposed to get saved. Jesus, but they have no immunity against the Harbinger because they're not prepared for it. It's coming out of the blue, and it's showing how real the God of the Bible is actually real now. And it's not a matter of feeling, oh, that's some Christian thing. It's like, wait, this really happened? Whoa, this God is real. The same God who moved in the Bible is alive and well and moving now in America, and we're in it. What are we going to do? And the final thing is like, if we are in it, so you better get right with God. So it leads to salvation right in the book, as the original Harbinger did, but now it's in visual form. There's a leading to salvation, and it's a charge to what we need to do now for revival.
Amen, amen. Well, I'm excited that this graphic novel is going to get out into the world, and I want to encourage everybody right now and get your own copy of the Harbinger graphic novel.